At the highest level, I'm going to explain how this is used and what changed primarily. So, the session data, or the event lists, were exactly how I originally prototyped them. That worked out fine, except for displaying, it's just, the buttons are there, I just don't have the assets for them, so they're not being currently used. Session data, I explained in the previous video about how that session idea actually changed along the way. And then the biggest one is how the saving and scraping changed. Saving primarily stayed the same, but he was kind of tied with another idea I had of going into the engine. My idea was I would essentially mutex the engine so that the data scraper thread could also be, so the data scraper singleton could have its own data scraping thread, so during the draw phase it could be scraping the data instead of potentially having to wait for the update or being done by the update. But what I realized along the way is just mutexing the engine for a single case was beyond hacky. And in a lot of the documents that I briefly showed you in our lectures, and then I'm going to show you more in depth about this engine just isn't designed for multi-threading. The engine itself that I believe I want to work towards should have the concept of thread waves, so that I can tell multiple threads to do their work in waves, and that the data scraper thread would just be tossed in during the draw wave. But this engine, I don't think currently has any concept of that idea, and honestly just mutexing anything to do with the engine is just beyond hacking. I can do it, it's just at that point I learn nothing from it and I just make a hackier engine. So yeah, next year I'm going to do the engine that has the concept of waves, and then I can actually put the data scraper work in there during the actual draw wave. And that will guarantee that there won't be any race conditions. Or, yes, the race conditions will be handled by the actual wave system itself instead of the implementation having to interact with the engine. Which is just so many, because the thread work implementation would have to try to override the engine's work, which is just beyond its pay grade, which is just not okay. So, in review. Data scraper tool creates float and data lists, then you can register for those for tracking or removing them, register for them saving or removing them, displaying or removing them, saving or removing them, and then you can tell it to stop or start scraping data, start or stop displaying data, and then you can just clear everything and clean everything up. You don't have to do this. The data scraper will naturally clean up all the memory that you give it, but it's good to do this. In the player, you'll see that he actually does this here, but even if they didn't do this, it would still clean itself up, so it's not a big, huge concern. So, as you saw, the player's X, Y, and Z is being tracked, and the score. So, I'm going to do 2 quick run-throughs of the player gets 110 points, and then I'm just going to run into everything because I'm invulnerable, and it makes the demo easy. So I have a score of 170, as you can see. High score list of 170. I'll run through 50, and I'll actually kill everything so I get the points for it. You don't get the points for it if it runs into you. So 170, 230, 290, 340, and I'll just run to this guy. So 340 gets added. Now I press escape. You'll see in the player scores, these now got added in a new section, and you see the 170 and 340. The 230 was from the previous run-through. That's why I was saying I kind of like this system, is it naturally does the waves idea. Or it naturally does the sessions. The last time I played this, it saved the 230, and now that I played this twice, it does 170 and 340, and you'll see X, Y, and Z do the same idea. Just a lot more data points. And you see the second one's actually longer. Don't save, I don't actually care about all these, and Y, it's the exact same idea. And Z, it's the exact same idea.